Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, April the 17th, and we got more severe weather on the way. If you live in New York State, especially near the Capital District, let's say westward towards Rochester, New York, that entire area is going to be dealing with severe thunderstorms during the day Thursday. And we could even see an isolated tornado in upstate New York during that time frame. Now, as we get into Friday, we're going to see that severe weather threat push back to the west. So, if you live in the Great Plains, if you live in the Midwest, so specifically, we're looking at the large hail threat, we're looking at the damaging winds, but a few dangerous tornadoes could develop on the order of an F3 to an F4 during Friday evening, especially. Now, to highlight the severe weather threat the next couple of days, let's take a look at the radar between Thursday and Friday. Now, if we look first over New York State here, we can see showers and thunderstorms basically from Ohio back into parts of the Virginias, all the way through much of the Northeast during the day Thursday. And of course, we see a lot of yellow and orange and red on the screen. And we're going to get into, let's say, New York State here in a little bit more detail with a high resolution model here in a few moments. But just keep in mind that Thursday afternoon through Thursday evening, if you live in upstate New York, through southern Vermont, especially into maybe western Massachusetts, parts of Connecticut, out ahead of that main line of thunderstorms, I would just be on the lookout for any supercell that might form. Now, further back off to the west, we'll notice that the next day, right during the day Friday, we can see a line of showers and thunderstorms develop from Oklahoma into Kansas, Missouri, Iowa into Illinois and even Wisconsin. Now, the cause of this will be this trough that's moving out of the west. You can see this blue area, right, that's moving into the Intermountain West. And behind it, we're seeing a lot of snowfall, right, from Montana all the way down into, let's say, Wyoming and parts of Colorado here. We can see some good moderate to heavy snowfall in these areas. Well, guys, let's look at the trough ridge pattern here for the day Thursday and why we're seeing the severe thunderstorms over New York State and the rest of the Northeast. Now, if you look here over the Great Lakes, you're going to notice that there's a green area that's kind of dipping to the south. Now, what that's showing is a lowering of heights, right, from the polar regions towards the equator. And whenever you see a little notch like that that's pointing south, that's a shortwave trough that's developed. And to the southeast of that, so I'm going to highlight this area to the southeast of that little trough, that's where we can have precipitation typically form, and that's where we have convergence of winds. And once again, just to highlight this area to the south and east, you'll notice that's over New York State, Pennsylvania, possibly getting into the rest of the Northeast, especially as that short wave pushes from west to east during the day Thursday. Now, also notice this larger trough over the Intermountain West and the West Coast. That will eventually push off to the east here. And again, it won't take long. It's going to push rather quickly here. And also take note of this low pressure over the northern Great Plains. Now, this is going to push off to the east as well. And that's going to actually strengthen from Thursday into Friday. And that will provide additional instability, pulling up more Gulf moisture, as well as more turning winds with height near that low pressure system. Now, zooming into the northeast, we'll see the storms fire up around 1 p.m. during the day Thursday, and they'll quickly roll off to the east, exiting the coast by Thursday night, early Friday morning. Now, I took a single shot here of that animation you saw just a few moments ago. And one thing I want to point out here is that any thunderstorm that forms out ahead of that main line, so any thunderstorm that actually has access to the daytime heating and that moisture first, could actually develop into a supercell. And these supercells that form are the ones that have the greatest likelihood to produce a tornado. You can see here that the high resolution model that we have pulled up is showing a supercell thunderstorm near the capital district as we get towards about 5 p.m., let's say Thursday evening. Now, it's important to note that severe weather activity will not be limited to these supercell thunderstorms. They will also be accompanying this line of thunderstorms moving out of western New York and western Pennsylvania. Now, the severity of this line of storms will be dependent on daytime heating. So, as this pushes to the east, The likelihood of this being severe, let's say in a place like Boston, Massachusetts, will be less likely than those that live, let's say, in Albany, New York, let's say in southern Vermont, western Massachusetts, western Connecticut. These areas will be more likely to see the severe thunderstorms. Again, the major threats here will be, let's say, large hail and damaging winds, and we're talking about straight line winds. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk of severe weather from Rochester to Albany, New York, and this extends again into southern parts of Vermont. There is a marginal risk for much of the Northeast, extending back into the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley. Now, as we get into the day Friday, we can see that we have this trough moving east of the Rockies. Now, as it does so, we're going to have showers and thunderstorms form out ahead of it. Again, if we were to position ourselves to the south and east of that trough, that would put us anywhere between Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, into Illinois, back into Iowa, and even parts of Wisconsin. Now, this lines up perfectly with what we were seeing on the radar before. And the area of showers and thunderstorms will be further enhanced by this low pressure system moving over the Great Lakes, again, strengthening as we move from Thursday into Friday. Again, this will provide for convergence of winds near the surface, but then also will have this moisture pulled up from the Gulf of Mexico. So winds again move counterclockwise around this low pressure system, and that will help to pull in that moisture from the south. So we'll have those dew points into the 60s and even some 70s here over the southern plains. Much like Thursday, we're going to see thunderstorms develop around 1 p.m. During the day Friday over the Great Plains and the Midwest. And the storms that form first are going to likely be the supercell variety. And I'd imagine there's going to be storm chasers early Friday afternoon in places like Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri. So any of these cells that develop out ahead of the main line will tap into that moisture first and also the daytime heating. But keep in mind that we're going to probably have a large line of severe thunderstorms that accompanies the cold front as that pushes from northwest to southeast. Now, this severe weather could continue into Friday night. And I think anybody that lives, let's say, in southeastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, even southeastern Missouri, there could be areas here that receive multiple rounds of thunderstorms. So you might see not just one severe thunderstorm, you might see two or three in certain areas. So just keep that in mind if you're traveling Friday night. Now, when meteorologists are trying to predict where these supercell thunderstorms are going to form, they look at two main things. They look at what is called CAPE, the convective available potential energy, but then also wind shear near the surface. So I want to share that with you here, that's sounding out of Oklahoma for Friday afternoon. And I want to show you the amount of CAPE that's going to be available to these developing thunderstorms. What we have here is CAPE levels of about 3 to 4,000 joules per kilogram. And just to kind of give you a reference here, about 1,000 joules per kilogram is necessary really to get these thunderstorms going. And kind of think of it this way, the higher the number, the more buoyant the air. So that moisture that's at the surface can quickly rise to the cloud top and feed these thunderstorms for a long duration event. Now, the second thing we need is those changing winds with height, that wind shear that we were just talking about. And what I've highlighted here to the bottom right-hand corner of this black box that I have here on the screen, I've got an orange box and a purple box within it. The orange box here is showing the winds here at the surface. And just to the right of that, I've given this symbol. And what I've tried to show here is the wind speed and the direction that this wind barb is showing us. And what it's showing us is that we have winds out of the south-southwest currently. Also, take note of this barb that's sticking out of the arrow. And what that's showing us is the wind speed along with the direction. So when you have one single barb like that, that's indicative of a wind speed of 10 knots. And if you have something that's shorter, of course, that would be something representing 5 knots. So just above this, right, if we were to move from that orange box that I've shown you first, to this purple box that's just above it. Again, this is moving up to maybe 1 kilometer above the surface. We see that winds increase. Now, moving off to the right here, you'll see where I've drawn a purple arrow. And you'll see now that we have multiple barbs here that are drawn. We've got three long ones and one short one. So the long ones again are 10 apiece, so 30 knots, plus the 5 gives us 35 knots. And the significance of that is showing that the wind speed is increasing with height. And also, if you look at the different colored arrows here, you'll notice that the direction of the arrows is changing. Now that's going to create spin. Now, the main takeaway here is that when you have a changing direction in the wind and also a changing speed in the wind, again, the greater the change of both, the more spin you get in the atmosphere. And I've drawn a little illustration here to the top showing a little cloud that's forming. And I've shown this red line kind of feeding into the thunderstorm. I'm trying to show the cape or the energy feeding into it. But also I've got a orange arrow going in one direction and the purple arrow above it going in a different direction. And what I'm trying to show you here is that that creates spin. And that spin can actually create mixing in the atmosphere and get these supercells to actually form. And if you're ever looking at these soundings, the larger the Cape value and the larger the wind shear, the more dangerous of a severe weather outbreak you could potentially have. Now, due to the Cape values we're seeing and also the wind shear, the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted an area of enhanced severe thunderstorm activity all the way from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, north and eastward into Kansas City, also Springfield, Missouri, into Des Moines, Iowa, all the way to, let's say, Peoria and Illinois, and into parts of southern Wisconsin. We're seeing this enhanced area. And what that means is that we could have some dangerous tornadoes that could form with this event. So, anybody living here in the southern plains to the Midwest, I would keep those NOAA weather radios on Friday night. Now, the severe weather doesn't end as we move into Friday. It actually continues into Saturday as that trough continues to push off to the east. And we're going to see it in Indiana, much of Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, even into western Pennsylvania. There's a 15% chance of severe weather at this time, and this area could expand, and all indications are that it will. Now, one final thing I want to share with you guys before I let you go is the drought monitor. Whether you live in the Intermountain West or, let's say, Colorado, and now especially into the Southeast, the drought has really gotten bad here in the Southeast. So I wanted to share with you here if you live from anywhere in Southern Virginia down to Florida, things have been dry for quite a while now. And over the last 3 months, this area that you're seeing in red and even maroon, especially over southern Georgia, northern Florida, this area in particular has gone from extreme to exceptional drought. Now, I do want to state that after the 25th of April, we might have a couple of opportunities of moderate to heavy rain moving into Georgia and Florida. But again, that's so far out, I don't know if that will be the case. I'm sure many of you are very aware of this situation, but again, I do want to highlight it because a lot of you are approaching the growing season here in the Southeast. Because the intensity of the drought is increasing, I do want to keep an eye on it moving forward. Well, guys, we'll leave it at that today. I hope you enjoyed today's forecast. If you have any feedback from me or any questions, please leave those down in the comments. I'll try to get back to those in the next day or so. Otherwise, stay safe this weekend. I hope to see you guys Monday. Bye for now.